captain is not going to accept insurance and indemnifications from these countries. We're just waiting for an incident now. It could happen a year from now, it could happen today, there's no way to know. But as soon as we get a disruption, maritime exports stop. Now this isn't Texas, so this is a real problem. In Texas, if oil prices or takeaway capacity fails, you can shut in the well and turn it on later. You can't do that in Siberia. For those of you who are from like kind of the Missouri-Iowa border north, you understand. In the winter, as long as you keep moving, you're fine, but if you stop, you freeze to death, and it's a horrible way to go. Same with crude oil. Most crude oil in Western Siberia is produced in the permafrost. And as the oil comes up through the frozen subsoil layer, as long as it's moving, it's okay. But if it stops for any reason, it turns to gel, and the water that comes up as a byproduct freezes into ice, and when water freezes, it expands and it pops the pipes from the inside. The last time this went down was 1992 with the Soviet collapse. It took them 30 years to repair the damage. They didn't get back to 1988 production levels until January of 2022. And now it's all going to unwind again. Now there is a bit of a buffer. About 1 million barrels per day of Western Russian production is not in the permafrost. They can shut that off and on, and they have already. But just in the last 4 days, output from Russia has dropped by 750,000 barrels. They only have 250,000 barrels left of flexibility. And after that, you're talking about shutting in those permafrost wells, and they will never come back. If we get an incident insurance today, you will see permanent damage to the Russian export capacity within a month. Now, what does that do to prices? That's a little bit harder of a forecast. All else being equal, which it never is, you remove 4 million barrels a day of Russian output from the system, you get $150 to $180 oil. Oil is an inelastic product. You have to have it. If you need 50 gallons in order to deal with your field, and you can only get 40 gallons, it's not like you just write off the rest. No, you pay whatever you have to do to get that last 10 gallons. But the price you have to pay for that last 10 determines the price for the entire market. The marginal demand, the marginal supply, that sets the price. So losing 4% of global oil is more than enough to double prices. All else being equal. All right, same map, we're looking at the red now, the natural gas. This is the one that matters here. This is the Nord Stream pipeline. This is not a marginal supplier to Europe. This is Germany's primary source, 40% of the total. Somebody blew it up over last summer. Now, the Germans have succeeded at replacing the volumes that they need. They used 7 different marginal suppliers. So prices as of the 1st of December were 6 times what they were before the war. Now prices, as you may have noticed, have gone briefly negative in Germany because energy is volatile, nothing's changed. And they're also having a freakishly warm winter. It's actually about 60 degrees in Berlin today, which is batshit. Shouldn't count on that lasting, it's still winter. Now the problem here is that the Germans don't think of energy the way that we do. I mean, we talk a good paranoid game about energy security, but we really don't care where we get it. So we produce a bunch ourselves. We get some from Mexico, some from Canada, some from Saudi Arabia. If we don't think anyone is watching very closely, we'll happily grab some from Venezuela. The Germans can't do that. They need reliability. They're in a tough neighborhood. They have precision manufacturing. So they prefer large contracts with state companies that deliver the energy on fixed infrastructure for long term. And that was Gazprom, the Russian monopoly. But without that pipeline, everything about their system is thrown into doubt because, again, the Germans don't run things like we do. They use that natural gas not just to fuel their electricity system, but also their petrochemical system. And those petrochemicals are not exported, they're kept in-house in order to provide the base material for their entire manufacturing sector. Well, the first step in that chain is now broken beyond repair. So the entire German industrial model is breaking down. If you want a Beamer, buy it now. This is the last model. Be sure to get 10 years of parts, you're going to need them. And it's going to get so much worse because this is the backup plan. Pipes that go through the conflict zone in an artillery war where one side is deliberately destroying infrastructure. This is going to get so much worse in Europe before it gets better. All right, natural gas in Germany, let's talk dairy. Again, green's where it comes from, red where it's go, and this is what's going away. The Germans are the largest economy in Europe. They're the ones who pay for Europe. And if they have an industrial breakdown that they can't recover from, the European budget dissolves. That means the Common Agricultural Project goes away. And for the major dairy exporters in Europe who wouldn't exist if not for the subsidy structures, specifically the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark, that means that entire block of competition vanishes because they have no market reason to exist if it wasn't for the subsidy system. Now, the French stuff is still there. The Italian stuff is still there. Those are niche products, those are quality driven, they have their own market case, they're fine. And my God, the Kiwis are going nowhere. But for that mid-quality bulk production that you go head to head with in every market, that just goes away. One more little thing before we dive into some other stuff. We're in the final decade of the Chinese system, and that collapse might be forward positioned. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Chairman Xi of China has consolidated more power into his person than any human in history, more than the Kim dynasty in North Korea, more than Nero of Rome. He is so paranoid, he is so isolated, and he has shot the messenger so many times that no one will bring him any information at all. Not information that they think might make him mad, any information at all, because they don't know the status of the debate with the voices in his head, and they don't know what's going to set him off. So we're seeing catastrophic policy decisions across the board. Last May, the country was suffering from nationwide brown and blackouts. Xi didn't find out until September. You know who told him? Joe Biden. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that there's a diversity of well thought out opinions in this room on Uncle Joe. But I don't think any of us think of Uncle Joe as a source of breaking news. But Xi's basically locked himself in a closet. He's worse than Barack Obama at this point. And that means his information is limited to ideology, whether it's his own or ones that have been provided to him. So he bought Russian ideology. Whoa, my hair's falling apart here. He bought Russian ideology hook, line, and sinker. So back last February, 6 days before the war started in Ukraine, Putin was in Beijing. And he told Xi to his face, "Why would I invade Ukraine? That would be crazy." So Xi was the only world leader caught with his pants down. And can you imagine like the national security guys in the back of the room when that conversation was happening? Sir, there's 250,000 troops on the border. No, shut up. You know what he did to the last guy? His head's a paperweight.